Access Paranormal for this week's I Want to Know, which is probably the one topic that, or one of the topics so far that's probably been the hardest for me to talk about. Now, some will say, well, why is that? For those who do know me, I'm very much about all the good stuff that happens in the field. I like to focus on that a lot. And also the fact that there is some great stuff that people do for the field and the interest in the industry. Hi, everybody. Hi, Maggie. So I find a topic like this can be really not confrontational. I think it still needs to be spoken about, but it's not something that I openly talk about a lot, because I find that there are plenty of people that already do talk about it. So sometimes I think there is no need. But with every question, reasonable question that gets sent through to for I Want to Know, I always attempt to answer it. And this person has sent this a long time ago. Hi everybody. Hi Kaz. This person sent it a long time ago, so thank you for your patience whenever you are watching. And yeah, so I have thought about it for a while, and of course, you know, I try and picking the timing and going, oh, you know, can I find the right time to speak about something like this? And I'll explain a little bit about that as well, and the reasons why. There's never a right time. There's never a right time for stuff like this. If you are new to paranormal investigating, this kind of stuff can happen, and it's very disappointing. It has happened in the past for hundreds of years that we know of. You know, recently, obviously, over the last 10 years, and I would imagine also in the future as well. So it does happen. It's rare, but it can happen, and it's something that, at least if anything, it should be something that's discussed. So, hi Karina, hi. So yes, paranormal investigating. So if you see a paranormal investigator acting fraudulently or dishonest, do you out them? Now, before I go into the whole meat in the sandwich type stuff, I wanted to mention a couple of things first. First thing is that this is not an avenue for people to name and shame. If you want to go and do that kind of stuff, there's plenty of places you can do that. This is not the venue for this. This is not the type of place or social media outlet for that. If you do want to try and do that, that's great. You will be deleted and blocked and banned, and your comments will be removed as well. This is purely from a topical discussion type thing. I'm not aiming this at anybody, which also means that, which is my second point, that this is not aimed at anybody individually either. This is purely just the topic itself and looking at different avenues and ideas. I had an experience once, which, don't worry, it wasn't here in Australia. It was many years ago when I first started investigating in the UK, which I'll talk about as an example. So yeah, by all means, guys, it's not aimed at anybody, because I know sometimes, and that's another reason why I avoid topics like this, because you can start to talk about it and some people are like, oh, it's about blah blah, does she know about blah blah? No, I don't buy into that stuff. I never have. I don't like it, and I don't think it moves the field forward. There's no point in it. But the topic needs to be discussed, and it was a legitimate question, and that's why I'm here as well. Hi Renata, how are you? Hey Damo, hey Gaz. Oh, thank you very much. Very professional. Thank you, Gaz. So anyway, let's get into the nitty gritty. Ooh, yeah, let's take that Band-Aid off. So, do you out somebody who's been acting fraudulently or in a negative way or in a dishonest way? We're going to look at it at two avenues, two different styles of investigating, because I think that's important. Now, the original question had a little bit more detail in it, but I kind of simplified it. So hopefully to the person who will be eventually watching, I've done that because I want to be able to open it up a little bit more. Now, Roz Stitt, who, when I did post this particular question in Facebook originally, at first, saying that we were going to do this tonight, had a great answer. And it's almost like, oh, lady, you know, you've just stolen my answer. So it was like, but I will talk about it as well. It was interesting seeing everyone's responses. A lot of people are like, morally, it's wrong for someone to do this and you need to out them. And I completely understand this. But from my point of view, there are many shades of grey, and there's got to be a lot of stuff that's got to happen first, even if you even remotely contemplate something like this. So the first thing we're going to do is look at it from a private investigator residential case perspective. Now, if this happens, if somebody in your team is acting fraudulently or dishonestly in a private case, I personally think that that has more damage or is worse than possibly being on a public location, because there's such a serious nature towards trying to find answers for somebody. So that's the first thing, is you've got a serious problem if that does happen. Second thing is it something that you witnessed, or is it something that someone has told you about? Now, that's a big thing. And I think a lot of the time with investigating in the paranormal, we take a lot of what people say, and we don't have the evidence to back it up, or we're not seeing or shown the evidence to back it up. So it's really important, if you are going to even remotely look at this, to really ask yourself, where's this information coming from? If it is something that you have witnessed, then that is something a little bit different, but you still need to be semi-critical of that. But again, if it's a private case, you're more than likely going to have audio recorders and video out and all this sort of stuff. So, and plus, most of the time there will be multiple witnesses as well. So you've got a little bit of that as something to help you make that decision. So that's the first thing. Where is this information coming from? Is it from yourself? Is you being witnessed by you? Or is it from somebody else that's come and told you? A lot of things can be miscrewed in a team. If you've got some unsettled team dynamics, again, that's another issue. But again, where you're getting this information from. Secondly, if there is something that has happened, approach that team member. Don't do it right there at the investigation, right then and there. I think it's important to let the investigation continue. If it's a repeated thing, then you might have to pull them up, but take them aside and away from other people. Don't sit there and make a big thing about it. A, you need to be professional at all times in front of the client. And B, you might just still be trying to fact find. You don't want to sit there and sort of semi-accuse somebody in front of everybody. It's really quite embarrassing. Particularly if you've got it wrong. You don't want to unsettle that. So take them aside, take them away. If you have a lead investigator, if it's like a bigger team, I would probably involve them as well, because it's good to have an impartial person there too, or just somebody else it will be sort of fairly neutral. I think that's important, because whatever could be said in that conversation could actually blow up, and it's always good to have a second person there to be there. Will say, well, actually, no, I heard this. Or no, you actually asked them this and they said that. So that can also help as well. Keep it factual too. Hey, look, I saw that you took a rock out and you threw it on the ground, and we all thought it was paranormal. Why did you do that? Don't say, I can't believe you did it. You're such a pain, and all the other stuff. Leave the emotion out of it as much as you can. You need to be factual. Again, I think this is something else that is very missing a lot of the time with paranormal investigating. It is sometimes hard because we're so passionate about what we believe in, but you need to deal with the facts and leave the emotion out of it. Ask them factually, look, I saw this, did you do it? I need to ask you why. Don't say, why are we doing this, you piece of crap, blah, blah. That just doesn't work. It doesn't make anything any better or move anything forward. So that's the first thing I would, another thing that I would look at doing as well. Whatever information that comes from that particular conversation, I don't think it's something that people could make a decision then and there. I think it's something to sit on and understand for a while. Again, that's if you had to actually talk to the person right then and there, and again, away from the client if you have to. I personally would say don't. I would leave it till afterwards. Contact them separately. Go and see them if you can. Sometimes it can be hard logistically, but at least phone them. Talk to them on the phone. We don't do enough of that. Social media is awesome, but we don't actually talk to people as much as we should and really confront them from one-on-one. Again, not a lot of that happens around, and for me, it's something I personally would love to see change, at least a little bit. So, find the facts first. Get your information. If you've looked at your video, if you looked at your photos, or if there's something that was captured and it was dodgy, when that person has spoken to you and said, no, I had no idea. What rock? What are you talking about? And you're like, well, that definitely was there, and it's there in black and white. Then make that decision. Again, depends on your team dynamics about whether or not that person should continue or not. Probably not. Be honest and say it to them. Look, we feel that this is what's happened. It's not going to work out, and we're going to have to let you go. It doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't have to be name calling. It doesn't have to be accusatory or anything like that. Being civil is really an art form, and a dying one. So if you can, as much as you can. And as I said, it can be disheartening when this kind of stuff can happen. But you have to pull that out for a second and then deal with the facts. And we do that when you deal with private cases as well. We interview people, and we're asking them the facts of the situation. How did that work? What was that like? Use those skills that you use when you interview people and think, okay, right, well, does that make sense, what they're saying? We know the tactics, ask them the same question a couple of times in different ways. Are you getting different answers, or is it the same answer? So things like that. The truth's easier to remember than lies. So all that kind of stuff. But use that. We're investigators, we're fact finders. So go and find the facts if that's really going to be bothering you. And then just be really civil about it. Say, look, it's just not going to happen. You know, we feel this is best that that you move on, and you know, this is just the way it is. So thank you very much. And just really, that's how it is. Do you out them? Would you out somebody in that particular situation? Again, depends on the person. I would say no. Reason being is that if they were to then go to another team, and that team has found out that they were investigating with you previously, if they want to find out what's going on, they know where you are. And if they come and ask you, you do the same thing as you said to the person who left. Be really factual. So the person comes to you and says, oh, so-and-so was investigating in your team. Oh, okay, yeah. They're not anymore. You know, what happened? Oh, well, look, there was an incident that happened on a private case that we felt they did this, and we let them go. That's the facts. You're not saying what you think of them, how dare they do that, why would they do this, you know, how horrible. Just keep it as factual as possible. That's the facts, right? So be civil and factual in that way, and find your truth and find the information properly in that regard. So then we come to public cases or hired venues. Now, I mentioned before I've had an interesting experience when I was living in the UK when I first started investigating, so I'll talk a little bit about that. But before that, this is another different kettle of fish, because of course there's a whole different dynamics when it comes to people exchanging money for an experience. And there is a lot of pressure for venues and for people who run events for things to be exciting and fun and interactive. I mean, we know paranormal activity can be spontaneous. That's why you can't put it in a lab and study it. You know, it's going to be rattling 1 minute and absolutely nothing the next, and we don't know why. That's half the fun, is trying to figure it out. But when you're running events, that doesn't feel fun. So there are going to be times where it's quiet. And there are times, unfortunately, where there have been reports of people who will then actually falsely create possible paranormal activity and giving the impression that it is something. As I said, I mentioned in the UK when I was living there, the first time it ever happened, I was shocked. I was really shocked. I thought, you can't be serious. Like, it was somebody impersonating a little boy, and was like, oh, this is Timmy in the tunnel. And I was like, this has got to be kidding me. It's like, I can't believe this. And that was only after 12 months of actually investigating. It was a beautiful old venue, but it was, activity-wise, there was nothing going on. So obviously they felt there was a need to do that. And I thought, I can't be the only person. And so when we left that particular vigil, went into another section of the building, I heard everyone else going, oh, that was a load of baloney. You know, it was totally a load of baloney. If that's the case and it's happened and you're in a public location, 9 times out of 10, other people would have seen it. You're not the only person. They would have actually have witnessed somebody doing that. In that particular situation, I didn't confront them. Again, I was very new, and also at the same time, if it happened again, I still wouldn't. To me, it wouldn't be something I felt that I would do or feel the motivation to do. My motivation would be in a situation like that, if someone was doing that, is to just not go there again, not spend my money. And again, if somebody was to ask me, how was your experience? Oh, it wasn't the greatest. Yeah, I don't think I'll be going back. Done. You're not spreading rumors, you're telling your honest opinion, and you're actually giving feedback on a situation, because that stuff isn't good. That kind of stuff is definitely not good. A really good event organizer or a paranormal team or people who have a haunted location will have a backup plan when things are quiet, and they'll be just as interactive, just as fun. And it almost can feel like when you walked out of that particular vigil, it kind of almost didn't really matter if there was nothing there. You still had a really good time because you came away learning something. And of course, it depends on the crowd as well. Sometimes you get really good crowds which are really into it. Some people are like, look, I'm here to see that door slam, and I'm not going to leave until it slams. Like, oh, you're going to be there for a while. So a really good team will have a backup plan. So it is very disheartening when it does happen. But at the same time, for myself, there's ways to deal with it when it comes to possible fraudulent activity. The group that I had been with in the UK that did that, within 12 months they folded. They ended up not selling any more tickets, and gradually over time, of course, that has been the case where other people would have spoken to other people, not gone back, and they folded. So it kind of just disintegrates on its own anyway. You don't have to be the paranormal police. So that's the other thing too. If you want to out somebody, you really have to look at your reasons why. Is it to benefit the field in any way? Or if you strip it back and away from the whole moral issue, what's your personal reason why? Is it because that person may have a venue you want, or do they have the team that you want, or the equipment that you want? And it can hurt a little bit sometimes, but we have to be honest with ourselves about why we would motivate ourselves enough to want to go and do that, because once you start, you can't go back. And you need to find the facts first, again, just like with private cases. So say, for instance, in my said little boy, Timmy in the tunnel, if it really bothered me, I would have actually approached the person that did it and said, mate, baloney, dude, what's going on? Again, I would have sort of sussed out his thoughts on that. If he was in denial and he was clearly, obviously faking it, I would have then, or if it really bothered me, gone to the person who organised or the manager and said something. Said, look, I noticed this. I'm not here to hear live people talk. I'm here to hear dead people talk. I understand that can't be the case all the time, but I don't want to be deceived. I think that's wrong. There's that case. You don't have to out them. You can still approach them, but do it directly. Do this first. There's this first step of actually approaching people first. If there's something wrong, it's just not happening. It's not happening the way that first part. We're so ready to fire from the hip that we don't actually go and fact find first. And even if you know deep down inside that it was a load of baloney, so go and ask the person anyway, because then at least you've got that confirmation of whether or not they've been lying to again. So from that point of view, I have a rule for myself. This is how I look at it. If something really, really, really bothers me, I will either fact find or forget it. And that's my two things. So if something's bugging me, I will actually go and find the facts and find out for myself. I want to look at the evidence. I want to see the information. I want to look at what was going on. If it's really going to bug me, or I just let it go. Nothing has pushed me to the point of going fact finding yet. A couple of times it's rumbled me a bit, but not enough for me to go and do that, because at the end of the day, I would rather put my attention towards the awesome people I investigate with, surrounding myself with the most amazing investigators and the most amazing community, which is yourselves, of course. That's the kind of stuff I want to put my energy into. I don't want to put it in trying to out somebody. They're going to disintegrate anyway. And there are some people out there that absolutely specialize in disintegrating people's reputations as well. So leave it to them. Leave it to them. They kind of pride themselves in doing that. Let them take that mantle. Let them try and be the paranormal police. It doesn't have to be everybody. So that's how I would normally do it as well. So I would love to read all these comments. There's so many great comments coming up. So that's basically in a nutshell. You've got to really look at what you're getting from this, why you're doing it, and why you're pointing the finger. Not pointing the finger because you've seen and or witnessed, but look at yourself within yourself. Why is it bugging you so much? And is it really worth it? And then go and find your facts. If it's really worth it, take the next step, figure this out. If it's really, is it really worth that fight? Is it really worth that? What's it going to help with the field if that stuff actually happens? So I can't wait to read all these comments. It's fantastic. And again, if you have experiences, no naming names, no shaming, none of that stuff, where you've had something that you've witnessed and something like that has occurred, you've had your own Timmy in the tunnel, put them in the comments section down in here in Facebook as well as in YouTube too. And I'd love to be able to see what your thoughts are with that, how you've dealt with it in the past, or things that you've seen that have really worked, or your thoughts and ideas. By all means, share them down in the comment section, because this is what this is all about. So thank you for this very, very interesting topic, and I can't wait to read your comments. Until then, see ya.